Hey guys, Cliff Gray here with Flat Tops Wilderness Guides and True Hunts. Today I'm just going to go over our basic process for cleaning dishes and washing dishes in our drop camps. This will be very helpful to you guys that are coming out and hunting with us this year in our drop camps, but also if you're hunting with other outfitters that have a drop camp setup. Generally they're going to set you up with the equipment to do a similar type of process in your camp, all right? So in all of our camps, I'll just go over the equipment that we provide first. We're going to have 3 buckets basically, right? And most of our camps are going to look just like this. These are like 4 or 5 gallon buckets. They're easy to dip your dishes in. Some of them might have a slight variation of this, like a little bit of a shorter bucket, you know, for your rinse dish, kind of like this. There might be a camp or two that has these bigger mixing bowls also, but usually you're going to have a setup like this. All right, so we're going to provide soap and then bleach in the camp. We don't always provide like a large bleach bottle that's like the stock packaging. A lot of times we'll have a smaller bottle like this, but it'll be well labeled for you. And we do that just in case during the packing process, if it blows up or whatever, all we got to do is replace that smaller container for you. But we'll have dish soap in there and bleach. And then we'll have some gloves for you in there. And there'll be a couple drying cloths, but what I recommend is that you bring your own clean sponges and your own couple little dishcloths, just for the sake of your own hygiene. It kind of makes sense to do that. But when you come into camp, there might be a little bit that we provided early on that's left over, but don't feel obligated to use it. You're more than welcome to bring your own, and then bring a little steel wool. There'll be a little steel wool in there. And so you've got that, and then, as I said, just your normal dish sponges. All right, so in terms of the process here, I'm going to get into the nitty gritty. It's going to seem a little extreme for such a simple process, but I think it'll help you guys out a lot. So it's a 3 bucket system. One, we're going to have just basic water and then dish soap, just like you would clean your dishes at home. We're going to have a rinse bucket, and then we're going to have the last one is just going to be your bleach bucket, all right? So a couple things to mention right off the bat is that in the camp, none of this technically needs to be filtered water. Not technically, just in general, it doesn't need to be filtered water. A lot of guys get caught up in that, and they're spending a lot of labor filtering their water for washing their dishes. And I'll show you why you don't need to have it have it already filtered. But one trick is when you're making dinner and you've got your propane cook stove going in the camp, or you've got your wood stove going, have one of your buckets that you're going to use for your dish soap, have that on your wood stove. You can just set it on there like that. You can put some foil over the top so it gets warmer faster. So if you leave it on the propane cook stove or the wood stove and you actually get it to a rolling boil for several minutes, it will sanitize the water. But the main thing is it'll get it warm for you, right? And it's just easier to clean the dishes off when it's warm. So you can just do that as a process, have that on the wood stove while you're eating dinner, or just set it on there on the propane cook stove for a little bit when you're getting close to washing your dishes, all right? All right, so when you start this process, one of the things you want to consider is you want to manage kind of the food particles that are entering the system. And some of your dishes, like your plates and forks and knives, the stuff you actually use to eat with, that's going to have minimal food on it when it goes through this process. But your pots and pans might have a whole lot more. You might just not be able to get as much of those off before it enters the system. So start with your plates and all the stuff that's going to have minimal food on it. Do those first, and then come through with your items that are going to have more food on them, and you'll end up with a better kind of flow of your dishes through, and they're going to end up cleaner if you do that. So here we're just going to add our normal dish soap, and it's just going to be the standard process, guys. You know, dip it in there, clean the any remaining food on there. Because you're in a camp, it's not home in the sense that you want to really minimize how much food is still on your plates when it goes in here, or this is going to get really dirty real quick. So try to get your plate nice and clean before you put it in here in terms of the bulk of the food. Give it a good clean, and then here it's just water, so dip it in here, and again just rinse off the soap. And then here in this bucket, what we're going to have is just normal water with just a cap full of bleach. All right, so all you got to do there is just dip it in, okay? And then now that that plate is sterilized, right, or whatever dish you're doing. If you're doing your pots and pans in this section, your actual dish soap section, you're probably going to use steel wool just to get it nice and clean. But it's the same process, okay? What you're going to find is that all of them are going to get fairly dirty as you do your dishes. Don't worry about it, because what you can do is over here when you bleach your item, if you feel like there's still like an oil to it or like a grime to it, you can go through the rinse process again, right? You can rinse it again and then go into your bleach again. If you feel like you haven't been real careful about it and you're getting over here to the bleach where you've got some food ending up in your bleach bucket, technically it's probably still going to be sterilized. But what I would recommend is you can always you can keep the water level in here to a minimum, and you can always dump it out and just put some more water in there and re-bleach it, and so you can sanitize it that way. But that's the process. The last thing you want to do is that there's not going to be a really convenient way for you to dry your dishes like on a rack in the camp. So the best thing to do is just have, one member of your group, somebody's washing the dishes and then handing them to somebody that's just using a basic towel. Just dry it off, and then you can put it, don't put it back in the sealed kitchen box, because there's going to be some residual moisture even if you hand dry it, and you can get kind of mold growing in there if you capture it. So just set it somewhere in the camp where it's getting a little airflow, but for the most part just dry it before you set it down. So one last thing, when you're all done, you're cleaning up this system, realize all this water is going to be fairly dirty, and don't take it out of the wall tent and put it right there next to the wall tent, a couple feet into the same spot, because if you keep doing that, it will build up, and it'll smell, particularly in September when you have warmer days. It will attract wildlife, all of that. But the other thing is just more hygienic to get it away from camp and spread it out in the forest. It's better for the impact to the forest too, okay? So don't empty it all in one spot right near your tent. So that's the basic process. I hope you guys find that helpful, and it works for you in the camps.